much. Good morning, everybody. Or I don't know where you are in the world. You could be this evening. I don't know. But thanks a lot for coming along today and listening. And the reason I'm guessing that you're wanting to watch this is that perhaps you already work with kids in your practice, or maybe you're thinking about it, but the thought might scare you. And that's what I get from a lot of people is that I really want to, but I don't know what to do. So this is the perfect little workshop for you. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to share my screen so you can see. I'm a very visual person, so I really like to see what I'm being told as well. So there we go. Okay, so you'll see up there, it's about starting to work with children in your practice. I wonder how many of you already work with kids? Probably quite a few. Yeah, I can see a hand. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so this is probably not new for you then. Okay, dokie. Okay, so why should we start working with kids to start with? Anyone who works with kids already probably knows there's a huge need for it. So in Australia, I don't know if all of you are Australian or you're coming from somewhere else, 1 in 7 children aged between 4 and 17 have a mental health disorder. And those are the latest numbers from Beyond Blue. Now, those are the ones that are recorded. However, I would say it's probably higher than that, given the last couple of years. And the fact that I'm booked out till February, and I also hire another hypnotherapist. So I'd say it's a lot higher than that. A lot of them will tell me that they are trying to get on lists for psychologists, and it's 12 to 18 months just to get an appointment. And then there's no guarantee that they're going to, feel comfortable with that psychologist. Some of them have been to 3 or 4 psychologists, some of the kids, and I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, these poor kids. So you know what? We're really, really needed at this point. Another really awesome reason that you'd want to be working with kids is that it's life-changing, not just for the kid or the children, but for the whole family and everybody who has contact. Teachers actually send me emails and say, I don't know what you're doing with so-and-so, but it has changed everything. They are just so confident and wanting to learn and wanting to be at school. And I do work with a lot of school refusal as well. So it's nice that it's actually affecting not just the family, the children, but the broader community as well, like sports clubs and schools. So what is it you need to do to work with kids? Okay, so you need to have a working with children check, and depending on where you are, it might be called something else. I think in Queensland it's called the blue card, and whatever you have over in the UK, the US, wherever it is you might be, but each and every state in Australia I know calls it something different. So have a good knowledge of what the age of the child is able to be alone in your room if you'd like to work alone with the children. Now, what I do is if they're very young children, I actually prefer the adults to be there, the parents to be there, because you're also hypnotizing the adults. I cannot tell you how many times, particularly dads, they're like this. They're gone before the kid if we're doing stories, and they're completely gone. And I had one mum say, can I just lie down on your floor? Gone. So you're working on the whole family. And if there are activities that I prescribe, because a lot of my stuff is also very kinesthetic, I use a lot of brain-friendly learning techniques. So I use auditory, I use vision, I use touch, everything. I get them to be involved, and then they carry that on when they go home. Now, if it's a teenager, they don't want mum and dad there because they will tell you nothing. So, you can't have the kids there because the problem is usually the parent. Just put it out there. Sorry, I have kids, so I get it. Have the parents sign the hypnotherapy agreement prior to the session. So obviously I'll tell you how everything runs, but you talk to the parent before, have everything done before the child even comes in. Is your clinic room safe for children? Because I do also see adults, and some people are child only, and that's fine. However, I find it's quite effective. I work with lots of mums and dads, so I find that I work with adults as well. It might look a little bit different. They don't want all my toys and all my art supplies out all over the floor, and they don't want squishies everywhere. So, if you have crystals and rocks and things, some children that come in will touch everything just because that's the way they are. They want to touch and explore. So make sure all those sharp crystals and things that you have are all out the way. And also your recording devices. I have headphones and stuff, and the first thing I want to do is put them all on and lick them and do all sorts of things. So that all has to go as well. Now, Ensure you like children. My books are full and people are like, oh, I really want a full practice. But if you don't like children, guess what? They sniff it out and they don't want to come to you. They're like, they know imposters. Animals and kids know imposters. They don't like you, they don't like you. So let's be completely honest there. You will be found out. Okay. I don't know what the other therapists are seeing children for, but this is what I find that I generally get in my clinic. These are the main issues. So number one, anxiety. It doesn't matter if it's kids or adults at the moment. Anxiety. School refusal. So that, of course, sort of stems on from the anxiety. Phobias. At the moment, I cannot tell you how many kids I'm doing a week for emetophobia, vomit phobia. And people say, oh, well, that's not a bad phobia to have. You're not always going to be sick. But this then turns into they're checking use-by dates of everything. They won't eat out. They won't eat meat. It just turns into some sort of eating disorder then. So, it's a huge thing in emetophobia at the moment. That's my main thing. And that's because we had such a terrible gastro season here after not being exposed to anyone for 2 years. All of a sudden, it just went like wildfire. So I'm probably doing 4 or 5 a week for emetophobia alone, little kids. Mainly girls. Other phobias, typically dog phobia. Dog phobia, not so much other things. Yeah, dogs and vomit. Thumb suckings. Now, this is a funny one because the parents want them to stop sucking their thumb. They don't want to do it. Guess what? No, they're not going to do it. Do you want to stop? Nope. So you know what the parent wants is not always what the child wants. And we have to make sure you've got them on board. Anger is a big thing, but again, we all know that anger is just that blanket emotion, and they're typically anxious underneath that, or quite sad. Bedwetting, low confidence and self-esteem is a very big one we're seeing with children not being exposed to, peers during the time of lockdown. Bullying and friendship issues. You're going to get a lot of teens for bullying and friendship issues, and a lot of it did happen over the period where we were in lockdown, particularly in Victoria, because all the communication was on Snapchat and all those things. And there was a lot of online, I suppose, not just bullying, but sort of things were misconstrued, and there was a lot of friendship issues. So people have gone back to school and friendship groups have changed. So there's a lot of bullying and those sort of things you'll find. Picky eating. Now, one of the reasons I do get a lot of picky eating is because I see a lot of kids on the spectrum. So I see a lot of kids on spectrum with ADHD, have sensory issues, and I should have probably even told you what my background was. So I've actually got a degree, a science degree with a major in disability with the major of psychology of disability. And I used to work as an applied behaviour therapist with children with what they used to call autism, but now it's just ASD, autism spectrum disorder. So that was my background. And so I tend to attract those kinds of people. And of course, if you do work with children, the parents talk if they get results. So you tend to get a lot more of what you're working with. So I work a lot with ASD, ADHD, and then the parents go, hey, you've got to go see this lady. And a lot of them tend to have AFRID. So that's the picky eating. Sleep issues. Oh, wow. We all know what sleep issues are attached to, usually fear, anxiety. And so if they've got anxiety, they typically would have a sleep disorder, but look, kids aren't going to sleep in their parents' bed forever. The parents think that's going to be the case. They will grow up and not want to do that anyway. OCD. So OCD, hand washing. All those lovely ads that we had during COVID for hand washing. The kids are still doing it, and I have kids and teens that come in with no skin on their hands at all. And when that happens, and they get infections, and then of course they're worried about germs and getting sick, and they wash even more. So I've got a lot of that. And I don't know how many of you in Australia have been watching 60 Minutes. Tics, particularly in teenage girls. I was mainly having boys for tics, but now it's a lot of teenage girls that have got it, and that's actually from stress, anxiety, and they're coming up with all sorts of interesting tics. And I do work with that, and that's quite an interesting one to work with because it's a little bit different, so we redirect all that energy somewhere else. But those are the things I tend to get. And because I do work with a lot of tics and things like that, a lot of my clients are from interstate, a lot of them overseas. So currently I do have clients over in Bahrain, Tokyo, Bulgaria, South Africa, UK. So I have them all over the place, and a lot of interstate ones as well. So it's quite interesting that if you're out there, people will find you. How do you find them? You probably already have adult clients if you're not already working with kids, and they will have children. And as you know, when parents come in for sessions, they will say, oh, there's stress related to my child's doing this now, my child's doing that now. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with their children. So that's the way you could start, a little segue really, to start seeing children. Now, the way that I started working with children is that I was a mum, and I would talk to the other mums at the school gates. So when my daughter started school, you know, the typical questions, oh, what do you do? And when I'd say I was a hypnotherapist, people were like, oh, they were so intrigued, and they'll tell me all their children's problems. I heard everything. And they said, oh, if you do that for adults, I wonder if you could do that for my child. And I said, why not? You know, I'd worked with children in the past who were on the spectrum, so why not? I gave it a go. Phenomenal. Kids are so much easier than adults. They don't have a fully grown prefrontal cortex. The thinking analytical part of the brain isn't fully developed. They're open, their imagination, they spend a lot of time in theta wave. They don't have, you know, preconceptions about what hypnosis is. And I don't even really use the word hypnosis with kids unless they say it. You know, so the younger children that come in, they get told they're coming in to see, and they're going to talk about anything that might be bothering, what they want to make in, what they want to feel better about, and it's going to be fun. So they're expecting to have fun. So what I encourage you to do is be a little crazy. Crazy is good, because crazy is something they don't expect from adults, and it sticks in their mind if you're a little cuckoo and a little crazy. One little boy who used to see me used to call me the cuckoo lady. I'm so sorry. I have a German Shepherd that's barking there. All right. So other places you can, Michael, I'm so sorry. Local schools, swim centres. Now, how do they know that I'm there? My car. I got to tell you, the sticker on the back of the car was the best money that was ever spent. Because I've got young children in primary school, I'm always parked at the local supermarket, the local schools, the swim centres, the calisthenics competitions. Everywhere I went, people would take out their phones and they would take a photo of my sticker on the back of my car, because it said that I was a hypnotherapist specialising in child anxiety, sleep disturbance, phobias, and everybody. And it's so funny, when I'd stop at the school, parents would say, oh my gosh, I've just been praying for some sort of solution and you're just there. So it's amazing how many people would say to me, ring me, said, I saw your car. I stopped at the lights. I was at the supermarket. So if you're going to spend money on any sort of advertising, I'd say that $300 on that sticker was the best spent money, I promise you. You can put stuff everywhere. But then after that, I mean, also, if any of you have a website, look at your SEO, look at Google, because I rank very high there. And then you've also got to look at referrals. So as I said, mums talk. That's how people found me. And then once you're good at it, I'm sure you're already good at it. When you're good at it, people know that you've changed, you know, a life of a child and a whole family. Everybody wants that. Everybody has a bit of FOMO, and they're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, they could be a bit more confident. Yeah, okay. And so that's how you're going to start building. Okay, how do we all start? It all starts off with the parents. So if you are doing any sort of marketing, you're selling to the parents. The parents are choosing you, not the child. Although when they do find you, quite often make sure your website has a photo of you, or your Google page has a photo, because they often show their children the photo, and they say that they liked my photo. They said I looked nice. So children can be picky. They want to see what they're getting. So they've got to see you. Now, when you do speak to parents, ask them what they believe the issue to be. What is it they want for their children? As I said, it might be different to the actual child. What have they done in the past to help their child? As a hypnotherapist, you're probably going to be the last thing they've tried. They've probably been to psychologists, they've been to pediatricians, they've been to OTs, they've been to speech therapists, they've been to counselors. They've been everywhere. They've been to dietitians for AFRID, for example, picky eating. And then ask them why hypnotherapy, what made them think of hypnotherapy? Explain. This is the major thing, because you're going to have a lot of problems with this. Explain what hypnotherapy with a child looks like. It does not look like any hypnotherapy you do with an adult, because if you're working with really little ones, so my youngest one I've got inside the clinic at the moment is 4. They're not going to sit down and close their eyes and have a lovely relax, because they do not need to. And if a parent expects that, and look, I remember the first time I didn't explain it to a parent, they were furious. They kept yelling at their child, sit still, sit still. They're not doing it. They're not. And the parent became so agitated. You have to explain straight away, when you're in the room, I'm not talking to you. You sit behind me over somewhere if you're going to be in the room. If you're in the room, guess what? You're joining in. If we're doing tapping or anything, you're doing it. We're playing a game and making animal noises, guess what? You're doing it. We've got the farm animals out, you're doing it. You explain all of this, and you're not to speak for your children. You'll find they try to speak for their children. Not in my room. If you do, I'll have to leave the door open, you'll have to leave. Be very firm, because they will try to derail the session. They've tried so many times, but it really takes confidence and knowing this is not going to work for the child. But then you can see where a lot of the issues are coming from. The child hasn't been allowed to express anything. The parent does it for them. So it looks like fun. I say to them, look, it looks like fun. All the language is very suggestive. The stories we make up, everything's done with intention. This is what I do. A lot of it's very kinesthetic. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of fun. So that's how you're going to manage expectations. And then explain to them, anything we do in here, you go home and you do it. Don't come back next week and go, oh, well, not much has changed. If you haven't done anything, don't expect the change. Just make sure they're doing what you prescribed for them. Oops, a daisy. Move that down a bit. This is why the child does not need to close their eyes. So I'm a little bit of a brain nerd. I do a lot of neuroplasticity stuff, as we all do. And I'm a bit of a nerd at school with science. I did neuropharmacology and all sorts of stuff. But this is the brain, how it develops. And that, thinking analytical part really doesn't take hold. 6 to 8, they have a massive growth spurt. Okay, so I spend a lot of time in that very suggestible brainwave, which is why we don't need them to relax down and close their eyes and go into, any sort of deep trance at all. We know we don't need them in deep trance to make any change, even if it's an adult. But just so you know why. Okay, what do you need in your room if you haven't worked with children before? Okay, so this is what I call tools of the trade, and my lovely daughter has brought me quite a few of her things. I use a lot of art because a lot of my session is also quite kinesthetic. So I have things like butcher paper, glues, stickers, textures. I have lots of puppets because sometimes they don't want to look in your eyes, or they don't feel like talking, but quite often they will come and they'll talk to a puppet if it's in front of your face. And it's funny, they'll actually look at the puppet, not at you when you do it. It's like children who've met Elmo from Sesame Street in real life. They will look at him, they don't look at the puppeteer. They just don't. And you'll notice they do this. So you can have a few of them that they might use. You can use value or feeling cards. So sometimes if they're a bit confused about what they might be feeling in certain situations, you can spread them out all over the floor and they can pick different ones that might, yeah, in this time I feel this. Might even be faces if they're really young. Just have them age appropriate. Push balls and squishy balls. Children find it easier to talk if they're using some sort of bilateral stimulation. So they might just be passing things across. If you get a child, because I put them all around the chairs and all over the floor, they will automatically just pick them up. And I say, hey, I know I always find it easier if I move my hands when I talk, don't you? And they said, yeah, and the teacher always tells me I've got to sit still. I said, nah, we don't sit still here. So there's a lot of movement backwards and forwards, and you'll find that you're able to get them to connect a lot of the language through using both hemispheres of the brain, which is great. And it's also distracting, particularly for boys who aren't so great at language or connecting the dots. It actually helps them do that. I have Connect 4, that's also for my boys, my teenage boys. They will not look at you in the eyes, and they will play Connect 4, and you can be talking to them, having great conversation, and you're getting all these wonderful nuggets of information. They are completely unaware because they just want to beat you. They just want to beat you. They want that lady to beat them. You know, so there we go. Magic wands. Oh, I have loads. I give away lots of magic wands. We have a lot of magic in my room. And I have a special magic jacket, which is all sparkly and glittery. We have magic hats we put on. They try on the magic jacket. There's a lot of magic that goes on because that really sparks that imaginative part of the mind. And then they often will have a little takeaway gift. So as I said, there's lots of little wands. If we do some magic, they take that away. They also make a lot of things inside my session that they have to use for homework. So it doesn't cost you a lot. Maybe don't take them away. What you do is you send them home with the homework, and it's always something really fun. If it's not fun, they're not going to do it. Okay, so this is what a typical session would look like if you're going to be doing it with a child. So of course, first of all, it's going to be rapport building. We'll go through that in a second as well. What does the child want? You've got to ask them. It could be different to what the parent told you. Always normalize their experience, whatever they're experiencing, completely normalize it, because it makes them feel less self-conscious about it, and they're more likely to talk about it and be okay with it. If you say, hey, I see loads of kids like this, and you know what, we've been able to make you feel a little bit different, or we've been able to change things. Is that really cool? And they're like, yeah, okay. When they know other kids have it, because often they're made to feel whatever's going on for them is they're the only person in the whole world that feels like this. So it's so good, especially emetophobia. I mean, with the vomit, and they're like, wow, other people come to you for that thing? Yeah. And they're like, whoa, I thought I was the only one. And this is what I get all the time. Then I do it, as I said, kinesthetic activity. I do story or visualization, and then I do homework. So that's pretty much how the whole thing runs. And that takes around 50 minutes, 55 minutes. That's how long my child sessions go. That's the max. Now, if they've got maybe they get distracted very easy, ADHD, they're having to jump up and down, up and down, up and down, they might not last that long. But I do get them to do quite a lot of movement anyway. As I said, when you build rapport with a child, get a little crazy. You have to enter their world. Please do not expect them to be sitting nicely on a lovely big recliner. I spend a lot of my time on the floor. We're on the floor where I have so much glitter. The poor woman who vacuums my room at the clinic, there's glitter everywhere. You cannot get away from glitter in my room. There is stuff all over the floor. We just have fun. Sometimes they're upside down and parents are like, sit up. I said, no, it's good. Upside down is good because they're like stimulating the vestibular system, and that's a calming thing for them. And when you're explaining this to the parents as they go along, they're like, oh, they do that at home. So this is why I'm saying get the younger children to have the parents in there, because you're educating them as well. You can start with an ice-breaking game. Mate, if you know magic tricks, that's better. You can do simple hypnotic stuff, like, the balloon in one hand and the library books in the other. You can do the magic finger where they can't stop the fingers, magnetic fingers. Those basic things you learned in your training? They're like, wow, oh my gosh, I taught everybody at school this week. I'm like a magician. I said, I told you with magic's in your mind. So you know what? Teach them all that stuff. Then, as I said, ask your children what they want to achieve. If it's different from the parent, you know what? You're going to do what the child wants. If they don't want to stop sucking their thumb, for example, forget about it. Just explain to the parent. So I even talk to the parent and say, is this what your child wants? And often they'll say, yeah, of course it is. Yeah, they're ruining their teeth. It's going to cost me a fortune in braces. So, this is the conversations you are having. And this is how I explain to a small child about what's going on for them. And I've used a little experience here, or a little example over one of the most common things you're going to see, which is anxiety and school refusal. So I really explain the connection between the mind and the body. And if I'm working with a young primary school age children, I'll talk to them about all that cortisol and adrenaline sort of being like super fuel that a superhero would use. And that's how they sort of get all that power to fly really fast, or to run really fast, or to jump really high. And I just say, you know what? When you have that worry about school, the superhero part, and that's the part that protects you because you're so unique and so amazing. There's only one of you. It's accidentally mistaken school for being really dangerous. And when it happens, it sends all the superhero fuel throughout your body. And you know how it makes you feel that trembling feeling, and your arms, your legs shake, and your heart feels funny, and you're breathing funny? Yeah, that's because your brain is so bright. It is so healthy. It just wants to protect you from danger. So now what we're going to do is we're going to teach the superhero part to know the difference between school and real danger. Does that sound really awesome? And then, I mean, I haven't had a child say, no, I hate that. That sucks. They're all like, yeah, I'm going to train that superhero. That is amazing. And when you put that feeling into that context, they're like, oh my gosh, there's been this superhero here all this time. Oh, and they're so relieved that you've explained that. You see the relief on their face and they're like, oh yeah, I'd love that. I'm going to go through just a couple of techniques. Now I've got loads and loads and loads and loads, but I'm only going to talk about a few that you probably already know. And the reason I'm going to talk about the ones you already know is because I want you to start using them straight away. I just teach you how you can quickly adapt them so that if you're going to work tomorrow, Monday, you can use them tomorrow. Because I've got 5 kids tomorrow and I use a lot of these. I actually set out a little program. As when I see children, I don't just book them in for 1. To be honest, I will see them for 4. I book them 4 straight up. And I said, if you don't book the 4 right now, I don't want to have one session, then have the other one 6, 8 weeks later, because it's about 8 weeks until I can see people. As I said, at the moment, my next appointments are in February. So I have brought on another hypnotherapist as well that I had to train in children as well, because that's one of my main things. So just when you get them, I book them in and I do a program. So that's an opportunity in the future if any of you want to learn my programs, to even have a look at that, because these work and the parents are astounded. So these are the ones I want you to use straight away. If you're going into the office tomorrow and you're going to have your first child client, control room. I bet everybody knows the control room, right? We all learn it. It's so simple. But this is how I stretch it out to that 55 minutes. I have all the art supplies there. I already have cardboard pieces already cut out. And that's their control center. I have art supplies, buttons, stickers. I've got all emoji faces. I've got pom-poms. I've got glue, glitter. I've got everything you can imagine. And I say to them, we make a little story. Imagine you could, like in a little spaceship, and you could like fly into your ear and right into your mind. And there's a big control panel that controls all of your thoughts, all the way you behave. Could you imagine what it might look like? And then they're like, oh, yeah, I can. And then I'm like, I wonder what dials and buttons would be there. I wonder what we can do to change them around so you feel really brave and really strong and control that superpower that you have. And they're like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what I need to do. And you can build. I mean, that's half the session. That's 30 minutes. And some of the, particularly girls, you've got to stop them because it gets so creative. And they can go on and really make it so beautiful. So I have gorgeous photos of what the girls do and the boys. The boys are like done sometimes. You have to you have to sort of stretch out and go, oh, I wonder if you'd like that button. Oh, I wonder if you add that one, what that one might do and when you might use it. And then they have a little bit of a practice. I'm like, okay, so I'm wondering if you get up in the morning, where would your controls have to be so you get up and feel really good? Oh, and when you're walking into that school gate, what is something at lunchtime? What do you want to feel at lunchtime? So it depends what's going on for them. Get them to find all dials, buttons, practice them. And then when they've had a practice, I say to them, right, I'm going to get you, if you want, you can either close your eyes, you can keep them open and look at your control. And this is where you're going to tell the whole story. So you've already made it, you've had a practice, and then you're going to tell them the whole story about when they've chosen to use it and what dials and buttons and levers they're having to change and what that would look like, and running all the way through that. And that's a 55-minute session. But then they have to go home with this control panel and they have to practice using it every day. They've got to put it right next to their bed maybe, or somewhere that they're going to look at first thing in the morning, have a bit of a practice, then remember it in their mind so they can use it throughout the day. Before they go to bed again, they might have a little look and practice again. So there might be a sleep one on there, because a lot of parents go, put a sleep one on, put a sleep one on. If they want to, they can. And they might turn up the sleepy one. And that actually worked for a child who wasn't sleeping because of Momo. I don't know if you know any of the pop-ups in YouTube. There was Momo for a while. There's Huggy Wuggy, Kissy Missy, and all these things that pop up. I have a lot of kids for Slappy. If anyone reads Goosebumps, and then Pennywise. You get a lot of clown phobias. So you know what? We do that as well. And also they can also have a little control for a beautiful bubble of protection as well, and we do that in another session where we have everything inside their bubble. So you can really stretch these out, but what happens is the kids get really involved. It's made it fun, and they're like, even when their sessions are finished, oh, but I don't want to go. They don't want to go, and they're like, oh, can I come back? And even when their sessions are finished, the parents will ring me and say, do you mind if I just book them in every couple of weeks? And I have some children that have come monthly for the last couple of years, because it just gives them that confidence and that top up. And so you will have clients forever, and then you see their cousins and their friends and their siblings and everybody they know. So they, you know, if you do these kinds of things, they're going to rave. They're going to rave about you. Breathing, we already know about breathing. That's the one way to get rid of, get the superhero part to calm down and to stop releasing the fuel. These are a couple of ways that I do teach. There's another way that I even teach, which I know you've seen, Trish, the teddy bear breathing, which is for the younger kids, where they lay on the floor, and I have teddy bears and puppets in my room, and they put it on their tummy, and we practice breathing all the way so their tummies are fat, and a little teddy bear comes up and he's doing a push-up, so we make sure we breathe nice and deeply. These are actually my daughters. So the one in the middle is doing cookie breathing, where we imagine our favorite cookie on our hand, and we have to decide what flavor it's going to be, and it's just come out of the oven and it's so hot and it smells delicious, so we have to breathe in through our nose and really smell it, so that all the smell goes down all the way to the tummy, and our tummy's sticking out. And then, because it's so hot and we really want to eat it, we need to blow on it all the way out. And we do that a few times, and then in the end we pretend eating it. Oh yeah, it was delicious. It's choc chip. What was yours? So those are some really fun ways you can teach breathing. My other little daughter, who's wearing pink there, she's doing another type of bilateral stimulation, which a lot of you might know as the butterfly hug. Now, typically the butterfly hug, you're a little bit higher up, but children find it really hard to do that. So it's okay if you cross your arms and you tap one and the other. And I teach them, this is a really cool technique, again, to, just keep that superhero fuel down, because you don't need it right now. Let's slow down that superhero fuel and make you feel really good. And they often do that on the way to school. And I've been using this with my VCE students because they've just finished their Year 12 exams. And before they go into their exams, they might be standing outside the door doing this. They said it really helps them. So you can use that for the older ones as well. And then I've just got a control panel down there. Now, if you do get boys that might not want to make a really fancy control panel, I do use it also for teens. Boys will just draw it. I give them a piece of paper and say, okay, what does it look like? Usually it's a computer game, it's a PS4, it's an Xbox, it's something, but they know what it looks like. Okay. A few more. With my phobias, you probably all know the NLP rewind. Some of you might even know modified rewind that Clive teaches. I don't know which one you use, but when I use it with kids, I get them to imagine they're doing it on an iPad, because they all know what an iPad looks like. They've all got an iPad, and I get them to do that. So they will do the rewind on that, and they go backwards and forwards, and they change it all that way. A few of you might know Freddie Jacquin's Room 101, where you put all the yucky stuff in one room, you're going forwards and backwards to the room and distorting the phobia every time. I get them to physically do that. So we run, so we have different markers in the room. We run through the yucky bit, and every time we go through it changes. And we put circus music in there. Or we might do frogs. They sound like frogs this time. Puppets. Take some old socks in, clean ones, or you can even buy a new pair. Make a puppet. This is a good way to do parts therapy. They can make the part. They know what that part looks like, that maybe is a bit of a bully that might be telling them that they can't eat this food because it's going to make them sick. And the part that knows that's really okay and I can feel really confident around food, for example, if you're working with a metaphobia, or the part that is a little bit worried to walk in that school gate, and the part that knows that, no, I'm okay. So we have to make it and have a little conversation. So again, half the session is making these puppets or drawing these puppets. And then you actually have the full conversation, the therapy that way. So that's a really amazing part as well. And again, anything you do, you just practice. You know you have to future pace. That's what we do with hypnosis. We future pace stuff. So whatever they've done, we then take it into the future. Okay, what would that part say in the future? Okay, how would my movie look in the future if everything had changed? What would I be doing to change my controls in the future so I could feel exactly the way that I wanted to feel? So all of those things are absolutely possible. All those adult techniques are so possible with children, only they're much more fun. You're going to have a ball. And when you start doing it, you get really excited, and they get really excited. And even the parents go, I can't believe they spoke to you. We've tried not hypnosis, but we've tried psychology. We've tried everything. They wouldn't do anything. I don't know how it happened, how you get them to do that. Like, just have to be fun. You just have to engage with that younger part of you, the part that knows how to have fun and be crazy. And if any of you ever had therapy as a child, be the therapist you wanted, a crazy, fun one. I'm the cuckoo lady, and that's okay. I don't mind being called cuckoo lady. That's fine. As long as you have fun and you get the changes you want. Considerations. Here we go. As I said, talk to the child, not the parent, unless you want to talk to the parent afterwards. If the parent's inside, again, they're joining in. And look, when I do EFT, because I did say on my techniques there's EFT, I don't always use words. I don't use typical EFT because sometimes it's hard to connect the words. So we may use crazy animal sounds. So we do monkey sounds, ooh, 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 like we do really silly stuff because we're just moving the energy. We're changing because we know that every time we tap around, it's sending that message to the brain that I'm okay. Yeah, I'm good. And actually it starts to change energy and they actually feel really good. So they're releasing all that yucky energy. They're starting to feel a shift and they're bringing in beautiful energy. So the monkey might get faster, might get slower. And I even use EFT tapping when there's a word they don't like vomit, sick. I don't know if you get spiders, depends where you're in the world. Spiders, snakes, whatever it is, but we do it crazy. Like spiders, like really silly. Spiders, whatever it is, so make sure you're tapping, because if you know EFT, you're tapping around 7 times. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're shifting the energy and you're making the sound or making it all sound ridiculous. So when they hear that word again in the future, it's like, that's a bit weird, because we know how EFT can really change the feeling in people. So some of you may be EFT practitioners, some may not. I don't do typical EFT because I know some of you might just really use that a lot and think, oh, Olivia, you're destroying it. But you know what? It's all about fun for the kids. All parents are to continue prescribed techniques at home, and if you are a sleep talk consultant or if they're interested, it's a really good idea also to teach them sleep talk if they're young children. So I also teach the parents sleep talk. So they're to continue to boost that self-esteem when the child is asleep. They're not to tell them they're doing that. Not all of you may know sleep talk, but it's a program where you're going in and you're giving lots of messages of love and happiness, and today's a happy day and everything's really wonderful. So it is a bit of a conflict with what maybe some of the mindset and some of the negative beliefs that are sitting down there are. So it's about a bit of confliction until those beautiful messages of love that you go and give every night really outweigh the negative stuff. Keep the child's confidence. So you may have a teen, you may have someone who's like, they do ask, you're not going to tell mum, are you? Now, unless they're going to hurt themselves, you have a duty of care. You've also got to remember the Privacy Act. So make sure you know what it is in your state or territory. If they're going to harm themselves or harm somebody else, of course, you do have to tell the parents, and I do explain that to them as well, because I do get children who self-harm. So if I do notice that, if I do find them, because sometimes they will hide it underneath a dress, but the school dress goes slightly up and I see it, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, but I have to, by law. Sometimes you find that they've harmed all the way in their hair. You can see it in their hairline. They're scratched all the way around there as well. Even behind the neck, you'll find stuff like that. So when they're moving stuff around, they might not notice that I notice, but I do. So you do have to notify parents. Just have fun. Look, kids have all the answers. You might set out what you think is going to be a perfect session. They're going to do what they want to do. If they want to be a monkey and be upside down on their head, or they want to do a somersault, yeah, they're going to do it. If you can do 1, 2, that's even better. Just get in there. Be crazy, and you're going to find the session is one that it went completely different the way you expected, but the results were astounding. Sometimes the ones I think, oh, I don't know how that went. And the parents will ring me and go, oh my gosh, you cannot believe what they did now. It was amazing. So just go for it. Just go with it. Tricky bits. Parents, it's always the parents. Tricky bits of parents. Again, you get a lot of phone calls from parents. A lot of them want you to be available 24/7. Let them know you're not. I will not respond today. And can you believe Saturday night I get phone calls? I don't pick them up. So you are not available to them all the time. The child might not want to be there, and even though you've explained it to the parents that the child has to really want to be there, they don't want to be there. They won't be there. Say to the parents, hey, you know what? They want to do it. And if it's just a really young child, I might say to the parents, hey, I'm going to teach you sleep talk. There may be underlying undiagnosed issues. I'm talking about kids that are not yet diagnosed with things that, because I've worked with ASD and I did it a lot at uni, I can see kids that are on spectrum. I can see it straight away, but I'm not allowed to diagnose or say anything. I can say, hey, you know, you might want to think, have you seen an educational psychologist? Has the parent said anything about this behavior? I might give them a few hints around that and say, hey, you want to talk about, you know, these things to an educational psychologist maybe, and just see what they say. Because we're in no position to diagnose. Please do not think you can. But I can clearly see autism spectrum disorder. I can clearly see the ADHD. So there's a lot of underlying stuff. Also, I had a child who was quite anxious, and the other day she was diagnosed with a condition. They've just found at the cardiologist that her heart rate is, her electricals misfiring, and she's always got this fast heart rate. No wonder she's anxious. The body's telling her. So sometimes you get these underlying things, and you can do everything and they have a great result for a while, but then they've still got this underlying biological condition. So these kinds of things happen. It can be smelly. Oh, so much gas. They will let it rip. They do not care, especially boys. I cannot tell you. I don't think there's a boy who's been in my room that has not farted. Now, the windows do open. I do have medical grade purifiers in my room and air conditioning. I do air it out between every client, because you will get the and all the laughing. And a lot of the jokes you use, they love fart and poo jokes. You have to enter their world, be a bit crazy. You know, if you want to fart, go for it. I don't, but if you want to enter their world, they just think it's the most hilarious thing if parents do that. If they will tell you about their parents, their dad doing the biggest, smelliest farts, and they think it's hilarious. And they will give you a demonstration. Feet, teenage boys, feet, BO. You're going to get it all. Whatever. Just go with it. You've got windows. Spray afterwards. You know, it's okay. You need to be a quick thinker. Kids are witty and they are savvy. Wow, they're amazing. So make sure that you are on. When I have kids for the day, I'm like, let's go. You know, I have to be up and I have to have had my coffee and a couple of coffees, because they will try and outsmart you. I usually do, but that's okay. Now, more information. I know I didn't think I'd fill the whole thing, but there we go, Trish, I did the 45 minutes. So I did actually write the children's chapter in the Anxiety Relief Handbook, and this is a book where 11 of us got together. We wrote step-by-step techniques that can help with anxiety. I did write that child chapter, so there are a few cool techniques in there. So you can order it on my website, and next year, if people...
The link is in the chat.
There are upcoming workshops as well. So if you want to work with kids, a lot of people have been saying to me, Olivia, can you just do a course? So I'll do it this year. I don't know where this year went though, Trish. Next year.
I'm still nagging. Like,
everyone's asking, and I'm just like, what have I done? How did this year go? But it did. And so if you would like to be involved and know when these workshops are coming up, I'm going to teach you step by step my programs, how I work with children, the techniques, the fun stuff. But you have to be ready to bring your silly. You have to be ready just to be on, because you know what? That's what you need to be if you're going to work with kids.
I'm happy to be the crew in the background that can, you know, do the web page and the bookings and all that sort of stuff. Like, I am that person, but bring a child near me and I'm just like, hello, little one, no touches. Like,
I had someone in Ballarat the other day saying, do you know any therapists in Ballarat? And I gave them your name and said, no, actually, no, don't send them there.
Don't send them to Trish. Send them to Megan Morris. She's amazing. She works with a lot of ADHD children.
Oh, so I've got kids who drive to me from Ballarat. I've got one that flies down from Mildura because I don't want to do Zoom. So I have them from everywhere.
So yeah, so we're going to nag Olivia. Everybody boycott her Facebook. So when is it? Hashtag Olivia.
I'm going to do it. You know why? I'm actually taking a month off over Christmas, which I've not done for years because I'm so full, but now I've got another hypnotherapist.
Good
So she's going to come in and she's going to be seeing my clients so that I can finally do this program, because I feel we just don't have enough of us. And as I said, my bookings are February. So if you want to be fully booked, you know what? Kids are the way to go, because this pandemic has made sure we're never out of work.
parents want to spend money on their children as well. There's no question about it. I mean, Olivia's also recently just raised her prices as well. We do have Annie asking that when you're normalizing the process, is there a particular age group that you keep that to?
This is for little kids, the one that I just gave you the example.
Mhm, mhm, so
Teenagers are savvy. You can explain it like you would an adult for teenagers.
yeah,
This is for primary school kids, and even the grade sixes will go, that's too young for me, because grade sixes now are just, they're on it. I'd say from age 11 plus, that you can pretty much talk to them like they're an adult, because they want to be treated like an adult. You want their trust. This is for little kids. So as I say, my 4 to probably my 10s.
mhm. Yeah, very good, very good.
Mm.
So thank you so much, Olivia. Everybody's sending you hugs, because of your fur baby last night. Thank you so much. We'll keep hounding and nagging you, and we'll all be there with bells on, I can guarantee it, when you start your training. So thank you so much, and if you wanna reach out to Olivia, please do, give her your email, and hopefully we'll have a course of some sort that we can all attend in the next 12 months or so. Sounds good. So, yeah. All right, guys. So up next we have Rebecca Fisher, and she's going to be talking about hypnosis and childbirth, because 1 in 3 women in Australia have some form of trauma when it comes to giving birth or having a child. So pop on over to that, and we'll be ready to go in the next about 10 minutes. Thanks, Olivia, darling. See ya.
Thank you.